Hello and welcome to another rendition of the Morningscape podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to cover Thursday's seven-game NHL DFS slate. DJ, how'd your Wednesday go?
Very tilting. Boston won. I thought was in an absolute smash spot, but I guess it was Boston too that wanted to take down all the GPPs. They had the most regulation goals of any team yesterday. I was really high on Boston, as I think anyone that listened to the podcast would know, and it was Riley Nash that stole the show. So I wasn't too happy. Not my best night. I didn't really put in too much money. Um, I kind of ran out of time because I decided to drive at 5 p.m. And in Western New York, I should have known that would take triple the amount of time. So I sort of was running low on time near the end of my roster construction and stuff. So I didn't bang in too many lineups, but still angry. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, it was a pretty bad omen when maybe a minute and a half into the game against Boston, Mike Hoffman gets absolutely rocked, and then I think it was Nash goes down the ice and scores. Um, Yeah, it was not good. He missed about half the game, so that's why his minutes were down last game. But that was just a sign of what was to come. Nothing went well. Ovi got robbed about 64 times, I think,
Mm,
by Andre Pavlik, which
plus
is
five.
hilarious. And John Carlson in overtime. Oh man, if you didn't see this one, he beat everyone on a wraparound and then comes around his forehand side and slides the puck literally across the goal line off the inside of the post, and it came back out. I don't understand how that happened, but anyways, they all got blanked. Washington got blanked. Anaheim scored a goal maybe a minute in, did
Yep.
nothing for the rest of the night. That was
Yep.
pretty pretty tilting. So,
It, it
let's
looked like.
do it all again.
And then did the Sabres game help you feel any better?
Oh God. Oh man. I talking about that is just it's so pointless at this point because you just know that no call, nothing is going to go the way of the Sabres. Like
Or Bills?
there's no use getting sad about it. Like it's just the way it is.
Like
So
if you ask me straight up, was it a goal? Like the puck probably at some point went totally over the line. But if you told me like find the puck and tell me like when it did, I you can't see the puck. Um,
yeah,
am I
you know
that mad about the call? No. Like a good team just figures it out and wins it in OT. Like you know what I mean? This is not a
yeah,
great team, but I feel like I just have never seen that call go any other way besides no goal, inconclusive evidence. And
yep,
did you see Robin Lehner's
yeah. He
what he
was
said
not
after the game?
happy.
Yeah, he basically
Yeah,
said that like it's something about Buffalo that like Toronto had their mind made up before, they even looked at it and that all the calls go against Buffalo. Did you see the Bills game? And I don't know. He was very angry. I don't even think he was in rational state of mind. But we can move on to this slate.
yeah.
Um, we have 7 games. Want me to just read them off?
Hey, I before you do that, I did just want to point out one thing. I do feel pretty good about the Anaheim play from last night. Looking at the advanced numbers from last night, just kind of cool. 5-on-5, Anaheim was a 64% expected goals for on the night. So, you know, I never feel that badly when I run into a hot goalie. So they pretty much dominated, and Vegas did Vegas things. So just wanted to point that out before everyone jumps off Anaheim on Friday slate because they're still smashing. Raquel Getzlaff, we're like an 80% Corsi pairing. They're still good. So just want to point that out. But yeah, let's dive into the Thursday slate now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Boston at Washington. Both teams on a back to back. Is it a road back to back for Boston? Or were they home?
Boston was at home.
Yeah, they were home. That's correct. So not a true road back to back. We have Montreal at Tampa Bay. Montreal was away, so this is a true road back to back for them. We have Philadelphia at Florida. We have Toronto at Arizona. Arizona on a back to back, both at home,
I
I
believe
think.
they're flying in
Uh,
from Colorado.
oh wait, you're actually right. They were in Colorado. Okay, I'm gonna stop trying to do that now. Chicago at Vancouver, Vegas at LA. That one is a true road back to back because they were in Anaheim last time.
Yep.
And we have Calgary at San Jose. So 7 games. We'll start right with Boston, Washington. Kind of the tale of two opposites from a night ago. Boston found all of the secondary scoring. They didn't even need their top line, which is very rare for them. While Washington couldn't score from anyone, not even Devontae Smith Pelly could get that. get that goal that he always gets when I play Ovechkin. Um, so yeah, I mean, what do you think about this matchup? I know we have confirmed Holtby will start, and it looks like Kadobin, I think, is confirmed. If not, well, by the time you listen to this, I bet he will be. So, what do you think on
Yeah.
this slate or
Um,
on this game?
yeah, well, I mean, I think it's more of a question, is DJ going to play Alex Ovechkin? Because if he does choose to play Ovechkin, Ovi will not do anything. So that'll be a piece of news you'll have to stay tuned to the group me for. Because, yeah, DJ, you played him last night and you just put the stink on him. Every time I play Ovi, he smashes, but then you jump on board and it's like, maybe not tonight. So,
Yep, that was no, that this is accurate. I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you. Like it's crazy. I mean, last time I think I played Ovi, he had like those 8 shots on goal game, and I wasn't even that mad about it. But this time it's like, boy, like that wasn't good for the old lineup. I mean, I mean, how many shots on goal? He had 4 shots on goal. It felt like every
yeah.
one of them was a great chance.
Yeah, no, it definitely was because I was honestly surprised too watching the game. I was like, oh, he must have had a pretty good night. Even without scoring, I'm like, oh, only 4 shots. I thought he had five great
Yeah,
scoring chances, but what can you do? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys here that obviously are interesting, but I think just the prices don't really make sense. I'm not chasing Riley Nash or anything like that. Um, I kind of like your take from maybe a week ago where you were like looking at TJ Oshie and Evgeny Kuznetsov. I think their prices are pretty good for, just how incredibly talented they are and how Backstrom will almost certainly go up against that Bergeron line. Um, so that's probably where I would go if I'm not just playing Ovechkin and moving on from this game. But I think on the Boston side, I'm not really looking to spend that much on anyone really. Like it's just tough when you stack a line and you're paying 20,000 for it. Like that's just not really um I just don't think that's great in GPPs, a lot of the time, especially when we have Tampa on the slate where Tampa's Tampa and clearly, the superior best line in the NHL essentially. So,
yeah. I think there's a lot of better plays at the same price as the Boston one guys in this matchup. But yeah, Oshie is definitely the guy I'm landing on right now. He's 5,200 on DraftKings. I should really pull up FanDuel prices too. I've been trying to get into that more. But I think the thing about Oshie that makes him pretty much cash viable is he'll block shots too. Like since he's been back,
yeah. Yep.
his shots plus blocks definitely kept him in the realm of cash viability. Just hasn't really gotten the goals that he was getting before his injury. But that could definitely bounce back against Boston, who I know they're line two and whatever dominated last time out, but that's just not a trend that is normal for them at all.
Mhm.
Um, this game right now is nothing from Vegas. They have not given it an official line, but I'm guessing it'll be about 5.5 to 5. Like it's not going to be, I'm guessing, very high scoring in like what they assume will happen. So
Yeah. What I'm seeing on
because the goal is that, yeah,
I'm seeing
has it
on
been enough?
Vegas Insider, sorry. I'm seeing on Vegas Insider that it's a 5.5 of the under, like significantly favored. So it's almost a
Yeah, that's
five.
yeah. So
Lowest implied total of the night.
yes,
So
that was what I was leaning
spot on.
towards believing. So yeah, I would go with a. No, I mean, if you want to totally fade it, I understand. Oshie, I think, is in play absolutely. I mean, he's finally getting those big. I mean, since he's been back. I think his first game only had about 10 minutes, and then no, I mean, he had one game in there with 10 minutes. That's kind of random. Oh, that was the game he got hurt. Okay, and since
Okay.
then he's been really back to that 19 to 20 minute mark that you would see him at, and that top power play unit, which could score on anyone. So yeah, he's in play.
Yeah, and then, I think this is a smaller slate where someone like Ryan Spooner makes sense. His first power play exposure. Like, I don't think he's a great play by any means, but if you're looking for someone cheap who plays on a first power play unit, Spooner plays alongside the first line and Torrey Krug on their power play. So, he makes sense as like a very low floor, pretty decent upside though for the slate type of player. So,
All right, ready to move
I
on
believe
to
Krejci. Yeah, I believe Krejci is still out for the foreseeable.
yeah. Last I saw, I'm pretty sure he just wasn't gonna supposed to travel, but it was something like
Okay.
he could be expected back by Saturday, I think.
Yeah, he wore a
So,
no contact jersey yesterday, so
yeah,
definitely
he did
not.
not
I mean,
get
obviously
play.
not tonight. So,
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
So Montreal at Tampa Bay. Montreal on a back to back. I don't think we have any news on who will start in net. Presumably Vasilevsky will go. And if it's Niemi, Matt, are you jamming in Tampa Bay?
Uh, I certainly do not make decisions based on goalie. Like even last night when it was Pavlik against, like if it had been Lundqvist, I would have played Ovi just the same. Uh, you
That's
know,
fair.
like it is funny how bad Antiniemi is, but what's really kind of crazy is that like the difference between a bad goalie and a good goalie is essentially one shot per 20. Like that's really the difference. Like, and I'm just not comfortable enough saying like, I'm gonna buck every other trend and say because this goalie is one of the worst goalies in the league, I'm gonna play this guy because I think it's much more a matter of pace of overall team around the goalie. That said, I mean Montreal on a back to back, I think you can absolutely jam in Tampa Bay and definitely feel pretty good about that. So uh, certainly top stack of the night. But I'm kind of interested in some of these cheaper Montreal guys, especially Jeff Petrie. I think that now that we don't have as many options as we did yesterday, and we saw Petrie play power play 25 minutes on Wednesday night, that'll certainly happen again. And I like Petrie as like a really high upside four category stat filler in a pretty
Um,
up tempo matchup.
yeah, and then we also have a pretty big narrative in this game with Duran coming back to Tampa Bay. Sergachev, I mean, not that he played much in Montreal, but he was a Montreal Canadian. Do you have any interest in Duran, kind of in a narrative sense, as like a, I
Um,
mean, like
yeah,
the Vegas Golden Knights theory, I guess I'll call it.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to kind of do a game stack of sorts here. I think if you do play someone like Juen with Pacioretty, who he's playing at 5-on-5 and on the power play, stacking those two with Jeff Petrie, and then bringing it back with Kucherov, Stamkos, or you could even go a second line for Tampa. I mean, the second line's definitely not value by any means, but still pretty good. Um, but yeah, I do think there's a lot of merit in something like that. This game is almost certainly the premier daily fantasy game of the night. The line given to it is the over favored on 6. The only other game with a 6 over under is Toronto, Arizona, and the
Yeah.
under is favored on that one. So would certainly expect to see a lot of people flock to the Tampa side. So I think an interesting way to kind of play off of that is to game stack it with 3 guys from Montreal and 3 guys from Tampa and just let them do their thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think if you're rolling out a lot of GPPs, you should have a good amount of exposure like that. I'm definitely going to fade Vasilevsky. I think a lot of people are going to be on him, um, and I'm going to be off of him. I think Montreal definitely can get back to scoring in bunches. I do feel like they're more talented than the maybe the record and goal numbers have shown. So I'm down with that. Yeah, but I feel like there's really not that much to talk. Is there any like cheaper options in
Yeah,
this
I
game? Like
mean,
really
because we
that you wanted to mention? Because Hudon hasn't played. I don't think he played yesterday at all, did he?
mm,
No, he did. He had 11 minutes.
yeah, I mean, I think
But
the
he was
only
missing.
were you saying something?
No, I was gonna say I know he like was benched a couple games in a row, and then he
Oh,
did play
oh, you know
yesterday.
why? Because Lekanen is back.
Yeah, Lehkonen is back. But like
Uh,
he's only gotten like 13, 11, and 13 minutes.
yeah, no, definitely
So
waiting
I
for
don't.
Lekanen to get a better role before
Yeah,
jamming him in. Yeah,
he's got okay.
cheap guy who makes sense is Tyler Johnson for. I mean, geez, he's not even that cheap anymore though,
Yeah, I
5.4.
know
But
exactly.
he's playing first power play for the Lightning now. So even though he's significantly priced up, like we know that Tyler Johnson is a very good player. And so even though he's not necessarily a high floor guy, playing on the first power play, he's going to touch the puck a decent amount. Like he's not like Kaloran where he'll just be completely uninvolved the entire time. Um, so I think Tyler Johnson makes sense as taking advantage of his newfound power play 1 role. But I mean, yeah, not really much value here to speak of on the Tampa side just because they're all expensive.
Okay, you can hear me okay, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Because my microphone came unplugged again. Okay, Victor Hedman is the last guy I wanted to mention. Like he is a model of consistency. I know he's really priced up right now, but if you're like the question, I guess becomes like Hedman versus Burns, where like if you have the 500, I think Burns is a better option in cash. If you're stacking Tampa Bay, Hedman I think is should be a part of that stack. He's definitely proven like he's almost getting 30 minutes a night. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah, I
has
think that's
been
fair.
heavily involved. But those are clearly the top two options on defense, and Price shows that. But what do you think? Like if you had, you know, a round, would you try to get up to Burns, or would you maybe stick to Hedman?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely trying to get the Burns here. Even if I play like Stamkos Kucherov, like I get why it makes a lot of sense to go with Hedman in that scenario, but I'm not completely buying it that Hedman's like the same daily fantasy player as Brent Burns. So
Okay, that's fair enough. We don't have to go into too much detail. I
yeah,
was just wondering your thoughts on that because I mean, like Hedman's been so good lately, but I do feel like Burns is a safer option in cash for sure, and Hedman's is
mhm.
more stackable. But he fits really nicely with any of those Tampa Bay guys you mentioned. Okay, so you ready to move on to Philly at Florida?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if I like much here. Um, like even Huberdeau, someone who I've been trying to keep an eye on because him and Barkov are pretty sick. Huberdeau's just stopped shooting the puck entirely, which is kind of concerning. And at their prices, I'm not sure if I like any of them. Similarly, I mean, if I'm looking at Voracek, Giroux, like that, those sort of guys, like I'm just spending an extra 1,000 getting up to Kucherov and Stamkos, not really worrying about the rest. So that's it's really not something that I'm interested in. DJ, is there anyone here that you are looking to play? I mean, Florida at home's been, I think they've been better at home this year than on the road for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, there's no one that's really jumping off the page. Like I would love to get Gossespierre in, but he's just kind of too expensive. Like I can't imagine trying to get Gossespierre, and I almost feel like Petrie could be a better option for a much cheaper price.
Mhm.
So I really like Gossespierre, but I don't think I'm going to have the room to get him. When I think I'll probably come down to Petrie to force some of those upper price forwards. Other than that, it's kind of like, do you believe that some of these top Philly guys can dominate? The thing is, I feel like both of these top units are almost like really good puck possession units, and they might diminish each other's upside. I mean, I always like Voracek. I think he's in play, but can you play him over? I'm trying to think of guys at similar price. It's like over trying to get up to like because you really can't take him and Ovechkin or him and Kucherov. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
like trying to get up to I don't know. It's tough. I feel like I won't have much from this game personally. I definitely I'm not considering stacking it. Um, but yeah, I do like
Yeah.
Voracek just fine.
Yeah, pretty interestingly, because I had it in the back of my mind that Florida was much better at home, as most teams are, but that it was like significant for Florida. Looking at their big guns like the Trocheck, Barkov, Huberdeau, Ekblad, Dadonov, Yandel, like all of those guys, if you look at their splits on the year so far, basically add a half a point to their season-long fantasy points per game, and that's like their you know average output on the season. So that makes guys, Vincent Trocheck is averaging 5 DraftKings points at home per game. Like even though he's 6,700, um, I think he makes sense just because his floor is so massive, and he has just as much point upside as these other fellas. So him and I believe he's playing with Dadnov. Is that right? Because they moved
They
Bukestad
moved him
back up
back.
to the first line.
I mean, it's kind of a wait and see because we haven't seen Florida play in like 4 or 5 days now. So
Yeah,
I mean, probably
that's
like based off
that's
last game, yes,
yep,
but
right.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I think out of all the centers, like I would take Trocheck over Kopitar every day of the week. I Bergeron, and Trocheck is pretty even in my opinion. If you could want to try to get, I'm not going to include Matthews and Stamkos in this conversation because they're way up there, but I think in that price range, I take Trocheck over any of these guys. Um,
I think that's fair.
so yeah, I definitely like that call. I just wonder how much you could spend up on center if you want to try to get in Kucherov or any
Yep.
of those guys, but we can debate that. um, in the group me, if you guys want to enter in on who to take at center, we can talk more on just that in general. You just want to move into another of the premier games in Toronto at Arizona.
Yeah, Austin Matthews returns home. Uh, Arizona, having played last night, I believe, yeah, they knocked off the Avalanche. So, whatever. Good for them. Uh,
Yeah, right.
I've said it many times. I do not think Arizona is like the terrible team that we saw in the first month and a half of the year. I mean, they're still the worst team in the NHL standings wise, but I think they're a bit I think they're a bit better than their record indicates, which is probably obvious. But if I had to make like a list of the bottom five teams in the NHL, like talent wise, I'm not sure if Arizona would be on that list, just because I really like a lot of the pieces they have, and I love their young defense. So
Oh yeah, no,
that's
huge fan of what they got on defense. I really hope they can keep Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I
yeah,
mean, I don't know the guy personally. I feel like there's so many rumors coming out of Canada that like he's going to get traded to a Canadian team that like I'm just starting to believe the narrative. I have no idea. But that's not really our game to speculate on that stuff. But
yeah, no. But the crazy thing is, Austin Matthews has been injured for about, I mean, what, 2 3 weeks now. He came back the day before the Christmas break and puts up 4 shots on goal, 4 block shots, a goal, and an assist, literally filling all four of the daily fantasy categories for a 9 point night. Now
yeah,
he is super priced up going into Arizona. I mean, he's more expensive than Steven Stamkos, which,
yeah,
you know, I, I don't know if that's probably fair, but um, I'm not sure if I'm willing to make such a bold declaration that, Austin Matthews will outscore basically half of the best duo in daily fantasy hockey right now. So
yeah. It's
you know,
it's tough. I mean, I feel like I always say this, but I really like that JVR Mitchell Marner stack. I'm just a huge fan of that. Um, So I think I'm definitely gonna have some exposure to them. I'm not saying like Austin Matthews is like he probably is the best play at center. Like if you were just taking one center individually, like in a vacuum, instead of like trying to think about like the line in general and stacking, I would take Austin Matthews, but um, it's tough at that price because there's a lot of wingers I want to pay up for. So
yeah,
I
I'm
don't hate the idea of stacking like going kind of Toronto onslaught against Arizona, but
uh
then you're really gonna have to spend down. And I really don't know if there's a defenseman I'd pair them with. I mean, Morgan Riley would kind of be that guy, but like he is not worth that price, in my opinion.
right.
Like you're really, really depending on points at that point for him at 5'5". Like he is just too expensive. So yeah, I don't mind game stacking this either a little bit with some Arizona exposure because if you go with a lot of Toronto, you're gonna have to get cheaper. And Derek Stepan, we've mentioned literally every podcast he's playing. Clayton Keller's
Yep.
5'2", and then Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Jacob Chutrin has come down to 3,100, still getting a very nice roll, about 20 minutes. He's a good shot producer, 3 shots on goal last game. I don't have his shot attempts in front of me and an assist. So if you did play him, like I said, you should, which I did. 4 points, 4 DraftKings points. 3-2 is just awesome. So still consider him. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'll send it
yeah.
to
I
you.
mean, and then the basically Keller step on OEL, our first power play. You can add the first line with Clayton Keller because they stay together on the power play as well,
Mhm.
being Keller with Fisher and Max Domi. So, those guys are all incredibly cheap. I think Domi in particular is really interesting because one, he's a center, and two, we have some sort of track record of him being like not a great productive player, but a pretty good. What DraftKings says he has a 52-point year last year, which is actually higher than I expected. So like,
Was he had a lower shooting percentage than like almost
yeah,
anyone, right?
he is shooting 3.2% right now,
That's not
and
right.
yeah, he's at almost 2.5 shots per game, which I think that's actually a step up from his shot rate from last year. And yeah, I mean, 3,700 against the Toronto team that takes the road. Like, I I don't think that the rest factor will be too significant, given that they just had a 3-day break for Arizona. So I think Max Domi makes a lot of sense here. You could pair him with Keller if you want, or you can just kind of roll him and use that money to free up elsewhere. And then my thoughts on the Toronto situation. I don't love uh, picking. I just don't love playing Toronto because their exposures are so cut and dry. Like if you play, Getzlafs and Hoffmans, like they float in and around the lineup so often. Ovechkin's kind of the same way with the power play. That it's not necessarily that like if they do well, the guys who stack that line will also just kill it because you don't really know who they're going to be on the ice with at a specific moment. Like I love Mitch Marner. I think his price is awesome at 5.1. But if Mitch Marner has, a 3 point explosion, JVR and Bozak are also going to go off. And I'm not comfortable saying, like, yeah, Mitch Marner's going to get 2 points tonight, like, lock him in, and then spending 6,400 for JVR on that same, convinced notion. It just feels so off to me because I don't think they'll match their prices in shop floor alone. And that's really kind of how I make my DFS decisions. So, like, if Marner ever started floating around and playing some shifts with Kadri or Matthews, in addition to the ice time he's getting with JVR, which by the way is nowhere near high enough for a guy of Marner's talent. I mean, he's averaging like 15 minutes a night over the past 10 games, which is kind of crazy. Um, that's kind of why even though we talked about how Marner is such a good play going forward, why I'm kind of hesitant to jump on the bandwagon.
All right, that's fair enough. I mean, I definitely agree with that point, but that's why I almost think if you're going to go with Toronto, if you're really feeling bullish on Toronto in this game, like you want exposure to multiple lines because they can all explode, and try to get like multiple lines with power play correlation is an option. But I do agree that like if you just go with a full line stack for Toronto, you're definitely diminishing upside just on like a clear basis. But yeah, we can move on to the next game unless if we had any other plays you
Nope,
wanted to mention.
good to
All
go.
right, so I think maybe the most heavily owned players will end up stemming from Chicago. Just kind of just because they're playing Vancouver. I don't totally agree with it. I'm not that high on it. I do think Brandon Saad is somewhat intriguing. At 4.9, just because of how low his price has dropped, and I feel like that's a guy that really want to get going to start the second half of the season. Um, his minutes have come down a bit, but I'm definitely still interested there. And Duncan Keith on the Chicago side, like he's definitely very consistent at 5.2. I think you could do a lot worse. I think if you're going to play Chicago, then you're going to want to include him in. But what do you think about the Chicago team? Brent Seabrook, who had a pretty good run recently, and is at 3.8. Give you any interest? Or are you looking at Vancouver at all?
Yeah, I mean, Duncan Keith has yet to score this season, which I don't think is necessarily his fault. I think it's just a significantly, terrible luck. But it is pretty funny to see after every game, you know, this guy has more goals than Duncan Keith. I believe that's Chris Wassels thing on Twitter. Kind of
Mhm.
funny, but
Great
yeah, in
guy.
general, yeah, definitely. In general, uh, I'm certainly not as interested in Chicago here. Like, I mean, I do agree with you. I think they'll be pretty popular, um, but I'm not really looking to follow those leads by any means. So
Yeah.
I,
I'm sorry. I'll let you know.
I'm kind of thinking about Brent Seabrook just because he's so inexpensive and his floor numbers over the past 10 games are just phenomenal, and he's playing on the first power play right now.
You know,
Tays,
the sim
Kane,
is
and
not working for
Misimov.
me, but I feel like the sim's gonna really like him. Is the sim working for you, by the way,
Let me check.
while we're being professional on this podcast? Because it's not working for me. I keep wanting to like say something about it, and it keeps not working, and I keep like going back to it, like, oh, must be nothing. But
Yeah, no, it's like a loading screen or whatever.
okay, so that's why we're not using the sim. We'll have it up before you guys need it.
Yeah,
Um, but back to Seabrook, yeah, I feel like he's definitely like I think he's one of the best values on this slate for sure. I mean, I think the question becomes like, can you get up to Petrie? Because I think Petrie might be just a little bit of a better option, or do you want to go down a little bit to Colin Miller? Um, Colin Miller at 3.6 at LA isn't maybe the sexiest matchup in the world, but like Colin Miller's really good. Um, yeah, I think if you are playing a couple Chicago guys, though, Seabrook makes a lot of sense. So he's definitely one of those guys to consider in that price range. Look at some models, look at some different things, and try to key in on one of them. Matt, oh,
yes. I mean, you kind of echoed my thoughts on Seabrook. So a lot of decent cheap defensemen here, and kind of the same thing as last night. I don't think there's any one like jam 'em in must play. I kind of felt that way about Mata after looking into the way Pittsburgh had been playing lately, and it ended up Pittsburgh scored a bunch of goals, but Mata wasn't involved, which probably should have been obvious. But he had a pretty good night regardless. But
Um,
anyways,
Wait, do you want to play a quick game though? A quick little game on our little podcast here.
let's play it.
It's called Which Players Are Above 4K on Vancouver?
Mm,
Besides goalies, and not including players that are at 4K, there are a total of
wow.
two.
Well,
Max,
Besser's back, right?
X. So there you go. There's one. I mean, that's the obvious
And
one. He's 6,300. In case you were wondering on his price.
is Edler 4,000? Or is he more than
Yep,
that? I think it's
he's
Edler.
4,100.
Oh,
Just 100 over.
nice.
Just made
Nice.
it. Just made the cut.
Winner.
One player, Daniel Sidion's at 4K. So you're looking at Vancouver, and you think all of this value. Like it's a lot. Is there anyone though that you can actually play and feel okay about? That sounded Dave Lozo-esque. I mean,
Man. I want to say Thomas Vanek so badly just because I love him so much. Like, I miss him. Uh,
put your jersey on.
favorite,
Come on.
my favorite player growing up. And, he's playing a decent role. Like, he is, what, 20? Yeah, now he's 27 shots over the past 10 games. Like, that's pretty good. He's definitely going to be featured. Um, so I
He's
think
not
he
on that
makes
first
sense.
power play though.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem.
They've been running
I,
seven defensemen too, and
yeah,
11 forwards. So it's like,
Marcus. Yeah, Marcus Granlund isn't quite getting the minutes that I would
I
like.
know,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
He's on the first power play. It's like
yeah,
crazy. It's like no one really interests me. It's so sad.
yeah. I'm gonna say Vanek. I think if you're looking for a value guy, I think Vanek makes a lot of sense at the wing here. Um, I feel like we've really been struggling to dig up some value guys. I think I called out Christian Fisher at wing as a cheap
Mhm.
winger. Really, no one else that I
I
am
mean,
really too keen on right now. So I think Vanek does make sense.
I think Vanek, Andrew Shaw. I don't hate Andrew Shaw. Is he still on the first power play? Do you have that up?
Uh,
Fisher, those kind of guys. I mean, Timo Meyer is kind of like, I don't know, but like I always sort of like him. Like he's like my boy. So I'll say Timo Meyer.
yeah,
Hudon is my actual boy, but I have no idea what they're doing with him right now.
yeah.
So I'll
Hudon
reserve that.
Hudon played second power play last game, 11 minutes. By the way, Shaw was on the first power play, as was Arturi Lehkonen.
Who he
Um,
did make it.
yeah, I mean, he only played 13 minutes, but he
Yeah.
played alongside Plekanec and Gallagher. My thinking is that if Montreal is winning in this game by some miracle, that Plekanec, Gallagher, Lehkonen would actually see more minutes than like a Dano, Galchenyuk, Shaw line would. So that's interesting. Kind of some takes from last game's Hockey Viz stuff, which DJ does not have access to
I will
because
get it. I
he
will get
is
it.
not a promote or whatever, a Patreon supporter of Hockey Viz, which you all should
I
be as well because
I
it is
really should do
freaking
it.
incredible.
I really need to just do it is the problem. I just keep like not doing it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then I just don't. But I need to do it. We need to get Micah back on the show too. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But let's move on to the next game. I think we've exhausted this one.
Yep.
Now, Vegas at LA. We have one extremely interesting piece of news, which is Tanner Pearson is with Toffoli and Dustin Brown. At least that was at the morning skate yesterday. I cannot imagine that changes. Um, Tanner Pearson at 4,400. I mean, you got to consider him at the very least, if not play him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, his shots have been down. Like last year, he was one of the best shot producers on the entire team. It was like him and Toffoli and Carter. Like they were all pretty much
But
right
then they
around
put
each
him
other.
with Toffoli, and like I feel like putting him with Toffoli diminished his like shot production because Toffoli is shooting the puck so much right now that maybe putting him with like a puck dominant guy in Kopitar, who in the past really wasn't that shot producer, but kind of became it on this line,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
no.
way better than Dustin Brown. So like, I'm gonna play Pearson.
I can't fault you for doing so. Vegas, like I've said, they got torched by Anaheim at 5-on-5, which is how I make the vast majority of my DFS decisions is based on 5-on-5 play. And then everything else is just kind of a bonus. Like if it happens on the power play, then I will not complain. But I think that since 5-on-5 is 90% of the game, most games, that's kind of the way you should be gearing up your lineups. And with Vegas being on a back-to-back, LA's well rested. They're the kind of team too. You could see actually, older guys, not necessarily the fastest guys out there. So like you could see them actually kind of benefiting from a few days off just to kind of get their legs back or whatever. I think I think that makes a lot of sense to play a guy like or Pearson, given his newfound first line role.
Yeah, I mean, on FanDuel, he's like the same price as Vanek and Domi. Tanner Pearson, by the way, just throwing that out there. Like he has the same price as Domi and 100 more than Vanek. So like,
is that good?
Well, I mean, yeah, like I'm probably gonna play Pearson on in the old Dmitry Filipovich league if he does it today. So
yep,
got to win that again for the brand. Also, definitely if you're on the morning skate and you don't really play much FanDuel, but maybe a little bit here or there, and you want to throw in the morning skate logo, and we can just take over Dmitry Filipovich's league, and then he can notice me. That'd be great.
Yeah, smart.
Hashtag for the brand. But I keep saying also Jadanov's right there. Wow,
DJ, didn't you win the league last week?
Yes, he hasn't done any podcasts then.
Okay, he hasn't done one.
No, the last podcast he did, he shouted out the last time's winner.
Okay.
And then I'm like, all right, come on, Dimitri, waiting. Watch him not do it.
Oh, I know. That would be the most DJ thing to ever happen, by the way.
Oh man. He'd be like, I feel like it was someone. Nah, he's a Sabres fan. He's fine. He has so many wins coming his way that doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to this
were you
game.
About to ask something?
I was gonna say, what do you think about Toffoli though? I mean, it was Gaborik, Toffoli, and Kempe. What do you think about that line?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I think Kempe's interesting, given his 3,400 price tag, because he is kind of good. But I don't think that I'll be going there. Like I just think Domi's a better play given the significant puck luck that should be rebounding his way pretty soon. So yeah, I mean, not hating on it just because I am interested in targeting Vegas, but I don't really know if I'll be doing that like personally.
Fair enough. I'm not against.
But I think DJ unplugged his mic maybe because he is smart and DJ does smart things. All right, let's go on to Calgary at San Jose. We have Burns here. Logan Couture looks like he will miss on Thursday as well. So we should be the same sort of setup as we had on Saturday, where we saw a first power play unit of Thornton, Pavelski, Labanc, Burns, and Hertl. DJ, are you back yet? Nope. Did we lose DJ? Okay. So let's just pound this out. Burns played 26 minutes, which is obviously a very good thing. The first line for San Jose looked like Thornton, Pavelski, Hansen. So no Kevin Labanc on that line. Labanc's minutes are down pretty significantly anyways, so I don't know, even with power play time, if you can play him. But Hertl's a guy that, I think makes a lot of sense here. 4,900 playing center. Like, yeah, he's by himself now. He's not playing with Logan Couture. With that said, first power play. Hertl's super talented. DJ, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. All of a sudden, I just lost everything.
Well, I
mean,
covered
only you really. I mean, my internet just was like, bye. You covered it.
Yeah, nice. I did cover. I covered the San Jose portion of it. Last note I had since November 1st, so basically the last 2 months of this season, cutting out the first month, basically. Expected goal pace at 5-on-5 San Jose is number 3 in the NHL and Calgary number 4. So both these teams are playing pretty up tempo. So it could be a sneakier spot than you might suspect, given that San Jose Calgary doesn't necessarily jump off the page as being a barn burner back and forth style game. But I think with all the value here, it does make a good amount of sense. So DJ, I basically mentioned that San Jose pretty good plays with Pavelski, Hurdle, Burns all being pretty cheap.
Yes.
Relative to their historical prices. And yeah, that was pretty much about all. Did you have any Calgary takes? Dougie and the Goats could be a thing again, given
Oh, you
Hamilton's
mentioned
price.
you did mention that Logan was out, right?
Yes, I mentioned Couture was
Oh
out.
wow, look at you go. So hold on, back to I mean, yeah, I think I love Johnny Gaudreau. I just feel like he's just kind of at that price where it's hard to play him, but I don't know. I just feel like Johnny Gaudreau is like he's that type of player that like I look at all his metrics and I'm like, well, he's not as good of a player as this guy. He has 41 points in 36 games.
Uh
Like, am I missing something from his game that like is
huh.
taking me away? I feel like I never played Johnny Gaudreau. I love him as a player. You know what I mean? Kind of.
I've played him twice, and I think I've gotten a combined 1 DraftKings point. So
Hey, proud of you. I don't know. This game just kind of screams like not as great of a game as the others, but I do kind of like some of these San Jose guys because they're cheap enough. I think Mikael Backlund's also cheap enough to definitely be considered. Like he's been very consistent as of late, with his shot numbers. When I watch Mikael Backlund play, like he just looks awesome. Like he just looks like a really, really good player. I don't know if anyone watches Calgary hockey, but I try to catch some of their games, and he just looks really, really good every time he's on the ice. And I think he is the driving force for that line too. So I definitely consider him. And then on the point, Dougie Hamilton is just always in play. Like he's just one of those DFS defensemen that you want to consider every night. He's getting
mhm.
pretty big minutes as of late, and at 4 and 9, I would say he's probably the best defenseman in that price range. I can't imagine there's anyone that. Well, I mean, Oliver Ekman Larson or him. I don't think I'd climb the ladder for Sergachev, even though he's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you want a spicy take here?
Yeah, yeah. I think I need one.
Mark Jankowski.
That's pretty hot. I don't
You
mind that.
might
Go
you
on.
might ask, like, oh, what Mark
The
Jankowski? Like, what
the
what about him?
Providence College captain
Yeah,
for 2 years ago. Did they
yeah.
win it? Did they win it all?
I
Did
do believe so.
they,
Yeah,
they
but
did. They did. They beat Eichel.
anyway, yes, that is correct.
That's what I'm thinking about. Come on.
So yeah,
Okay.
he was a former first rounder. 23 now. He's centering their third line, but the way they've recently reconfigured their power play units, it is Monahan, Gaudreau with Mark Giordano, Matthew Kachuk, and Jankowski. So I think that they're really falling in love with Jankowski's game. His minutes have really just been on a meteor upwards. He played 17 minutes in their most recent game, up from 15 earlier in the year. He was down at 13. So like just really carving out a role for himself. And he's only 3,400, averaging almost 2.5 DraftKings points per game. So I think that assuming nothing comes out in morning skate about their power play units, which I would not expect to be the case, given that Kachuk scored a power play goal in their last game on that unit. I think it makes a lot of sense to look at either Kachuk or Jankowski, given that now they actually have functioning human beings instead of TJ Brody and Michael Furland on the first power play. So I think those guys make a lot of sense. Even Giordano, at his price is a pretty good floor play, but I think I would prefer some of these other guys in the mid fours like Petrie and so on, just because I don't think Giordano is such a smash play over any of them, and I'll use that money towards spending elsewhere. But
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely fair point. So do you want to just get into line stacks and guaranteed goals?
yeah, let's do it.
All right, so I really like going with what was oh, I just lost it. Oh man. I think I'm gonna have some Drouin, Petrie, Pacioretty. That's one I'm definitely gonna have exposure
Solid,
to. I feel like people
solid.
are gonna be off of it because Tampa Bay is like good, but Tampa Bay does give up a lot of goals. So yeah, Petrie, Pacioretty, Drouin, lock that in.
Okay. Let's see. For me, I will go with a stack of Hurdle Burns. I don't love playing Pavelski. I think Pavelski is a good addition to the stack. Um, let's see. I'm not even sure who Hurdle's line mates were last game. Maybe there's something there for me to add a third guy. Um, last game, Hurdle played with
Oh wow.
Melker Carlson and Kevin Labonte. So I DJ, one of the things I did mention is that Labonte only played 12 minutes last game.
Mhm.
So I think that's a bit thin. However, Hurdle, Labonte, Burns all correlate on the power play and could be a 5-on-5 goal as well. So some decent prices there all around and a stack that I really like in a game that I think will go really underlooked given how solid the outlook is for both these teams given their expected goals numbers over the past 2 months.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. So on the cheaper end of things, oh boy, this is tough. The thing is I really wanted to include Pearson in one of my stacks, but I might just make him a guaranteed goal because
Solid.
like I don't know if I really want to stack him too much. I don't mind going with him in Kopitar, I guess. If you're like you're really GPP, you got to do it. I guess my cheap stack would be. Oh my God, I feel like I always do the Arizona one. I feel like I almost have to not do it. Right? I think I do it every single time. I'm like, yeah, you go Keller, you go Stefan, you go, one of the defensemen. How about I'll just go with Marner and maybe go Marner Nylander. And if you want to throw Austin Matthews, if you have the money, you can. But I think that those guys would be pretty good together. Like all three of those as a correlation. I don't
Yeah.
think you love that much.
I mean, my
You're
problem
not a
is
fan.
Marner will not correlate with any of them
That's
ever.
fine.
Like
That's okay.
that's the frustrating part about Toronto for me is that
Yeah, they don't
even
ever
when you
do
play a
that.
guy like Sam Reinhart, who I guess is kind of similar to not talent wise, but usage wise, power play, 5-on-5, kind of low minutes. With that, you get exposure to a lot of different guys, just the way the Sabres kind of mix up their lines as the game goes. But Babcock does not do that, so it really makes these fancy correlation plays just kind of fall flat 99% of the time.
I don't know. I'm feeling pretty fancy, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyways, maybe it's that 1%, 1%er here.
Hashtag
All
one
right.
percent.
Well, I mean, I mentioned Tampa's the top stack of the night, so I will not beat that dead horse. Florida, let's get Trocheck, Dadonov, and Aaron Ekblad in there at home against a Philly team that I think is pretty bad on defense. Let's do this. Trocheck's gonna smash.
All right, let's do this. DFS hockey. Let's finish it up with our guaranteed goals.
Yep.
I'll take Tanner Pearson as my cheap, and I really I want to say Pacioretty, but I don't at the same time because I feel like I'm just leaving. I feel like there's a lot of better options in Pacioretty for a guaranteed goal type of guy, but
Yeah.
also I kind of want to stick to my brand. You know what? Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go Oshie Pearson. I'm gonna keep it both cheap. I think Oshie's gonna net one.
Ooh,
I'm up with two kind of cheaper guys, and
I like it.
yeah.
All right. Well, I will not take guys from my two stacks because I think Trocheck and Hurdle is a bit too easy. Given that I just told you I like those two lines together. Individual plays that are just racking up a goal tonight. Give me. All right. Give me Ovi. He's coming back. 7,700. Kucherov is going to be a solid, 2 times his ownership. Ovi's going to net one. And then the homie, Mark Jankowski on the power play, gonna roof one on Martin Jones. So let's do that.
All right. Is there anything else? I mean, again, one thing I wanted to mention that if you do want more FanDuel takes, I feel like we definitely skip out on FanDuel because I feel like FanDuel's hockey is just not as good as DraftKings hockey. Although, I mean, one could say that DraftKings definitely gave us a pretty tough one before the holiday break. If you want more takes from FanDuel, more pricing, I mean, there's a lot of variation in prices that we could definitely key in on more. Let us know. Tweet at us. Do whatever you got to do. Yeah, and then follow us on Twitter at Morning Skate Pod, all that stuff. Please leave us a comment and a review and a rating. It really helps us a lot. And it doesn't take that long, and we do this for free. And all we ask for is a review. Matt, anything from you?
No, I think you pretty much nailed it. Join the group me, say hi, join our listener league. I believe Matt what's is it
I do
Armstrong
not
or
know his
something
last
like that?
name, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Matt R&B out there tied me in the Morningscape podcast listener league. So now we are tied 4 wins to 4 wins. Uh, I have played in 3 less contests than Matt because I am a donkey, but
Yeah, you are.
still 4-4. Um, yeah, so join the listener league. Uh, we I believe we'll figure out basically a mechanism of rewarding the winner for the month of December, and then we'll get a clean slate for January. So if you guys have any ideas, we were thinking about having the winner on for a brief interview on a show. If they want to hang out and break down the slate with us, they can do that as well. If you have any other ideas for that, I believe we are also counting the amount of last place finishes, and
Yes.
basically the loser of that gets to come on the show and do sing a song or do something stupid, just something a little bit embarrassing, saying like, "Hey, do better next time, bud." Um, so yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. But if you have any ideas or something that you think would be entertaining that people would actually do as a punishment and or reward, let us know because we could always use those ideas. DJ, your thoughts?
No, that's great. Just let us know, and we will keep it all in mind.
Yeah. So let's figure that out for the Friday show. We'll make our announcement, and then come Sunday, we'll be able to tally up the final results, and Monday, make the bold declaration of the winner and the loser of December Podcast Listener League. So, all right, that's all for this show. Get out there, win yourself a GPP on Thursday. So, and we'll get the sim back up and
Well,
running. Tag
and
us.
watch the World Juniors.
Yes, and watch the World Juniors. So, all right, from Doug, from DJ, and from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see ya.